A friend I met on YouTube is Phoenix, and he asked me some questions about the bike. And I thought, well, I'll do a video on it because I had some of this on. I had taken my videos off, and now I thought, well, there's new guys and this and that might want to see them. So I thought, I answered him in an email, but I thought I'll show it. And he asked me about hooking a line for his charger on his bike. His is under, he takes the seats off and hooks it on. That's a lot. I'll show that how I did mine. My charger, I talked about it before, but I'll show it. It's the best charger I've ever seen for motorcycles. And there was something else. The charger, and about putting wheels on. Later on, I'm trying to get a hold of my nephew because he needs a front tire put on. I want to go down to his place, get the wheel off, bring it up here, and use my Harbor Freight tire changer. And the tire changer, if you look on YouTube, everybody has mods on them. And I make mine a little different, and I'll show it. And you have to modify it because it just won't hold the tires. It's hard to use. So I come up with some stuff that really helps. And I want to show that later. But balancing is such an important part of the tire. When you do put a tire on your wheel, that's half of it. You need to balance it. And I'll show my balancer, Harbor Freight, how I went over it and how I use it. So the charging system and the balancer is what this video is about. But first, the last video I did was on this little grinder I'd made for my tooling for the lathe, and I had this, and I said about keeping this, so I want to be able to pick this up with one hand and take it out there, because I always take a stand with it instead of making 2 trips all the time. This is lighter than my big grinder. I simply put a C-clamp, a small one, right here. So now this little sled that goes back and forth that you can just lift off, I use it, and then I put it there, and I tighten this down on it, and there it's held. So now it's part of it. I can pick it up with one hand, take the whole thing outside, and it works fantastic. So on to the charging system for the bike. So the battery charger I use and really think it's fantastic, the best I've ever seen, is from jpcycles.com. They're out in Iowa, and I order a lot of my stuff. What I really like about theirs is it'll say on their website, shop for this bike. Shop for this bike means I'll put like the Suzuki in 2012. It'll ask you all the information on it, like the submodel, a C50, and when I look at something on there, it'll say if it fits the bike or not. Now that's for parts and that. I had seen this on, I think, YouTube or something. I got onto it, and it's called the Extreme Charger. What I love about this is it's the newer pulsating system. If the camera will pick it up, you can see it's been on this Harley battery. I keep it on there. Once in a while I put the Suzuki on it. It's gel cell. This is an acid battery. But what it does is it comes on, it has test. It'll tell you if it's charging. Over here it says if it's bad, and you can see it goes up and down, and every so often it'll test it, and it only puts a charge in it needs. They want you to set it on something like this. I have one of these half bricks and rubber on the bottom. They want you to put it on there because when you first put it on, it does get warm. So, and they say to keep this away from your battery, especially like these acid ones, because if you get a spark or anything, you know that acid, the fumes in that can ignite. So you want to keep this away from the bike or the battery. The reason my 1970 FLH has a liquid battery is because it takes so much cranking power. It's an FLH. H stands for high compression. It's high compression bike because it's more than the FL. The FL is a regular, FLH is high compression because it has a sidecar. They want more power. This has a water in. That's how I know this battery is so good. When I would use any other battery charger, every so often, I mean not very long, I'd have to add water. It's like, it's not boiling, but it's really gas, a lot of gas coming out, because When you charge these, anything you charge, you have to take these lids and loosen them and just lay them there so it can vent. And what was happening was the water was going down so much. With this one, it doesn't go down as near as much, but it has the charge. Any charger you use, you always unplug the battery charger first, then take these off. To hook it up, you put these on the battery first, then plug in your charger. Because over here, if you plug the charger in, put it on, you might get a spark. They don't want any sparks around this thing. But that's how I know this one is so great, because it doesn't boil that water away. And I know so many of them say, put it on, you can leave it on indefinitely. I don't believe that. With this one, I can believe it because I've watched this water, and I always check it. And I can put a light on the back side and it shines through and I can see it. But I have never had one that was so easy on the water and kept the charge up. That's what I really love. Now this battery charger goes for around $100. It was 90 some dollars, almost 100. I ordered it when it came. Well, you know, with today you play with credit card. Well, it was like $82. I looked here, they were having a sale on them. I didn't know it. Well, they gave me the sale price because they were on sale, which tells me that the company's good. They could have said nothing and charged me 100, but they gave me the sale price. So that shows me, and I've ordered from them for years. I like their stuff. It comes right to the door. Batteries, I even get there. I don't go to the bike shops. I get them through here. I'm going to have to, I don't know, I think I was going to buy one for the Suzuki, but I think I'm going to wait one more year. Because when I put this on, I was out here and I kept watching. It went up to 25, it jumped to 50 real quick, then 75%, and then it was up to 100 it didn't take long, so I know the battery's decent. That's another thing you can watch for. Down here it has 25, 50, 75, and 100%. Like this is on 100%. But when I first come out, a lot of times I'll put it on, it goes to 25, or it might jump up to 75, then 100. And if it goes quick, I know this battery's pretty good. So that's the charger I use. I just really fell in love with this charger. That's the one that I recommend to everybody. That is a charger. So I'll show on the bike, Phoenix had asked me about hooking the wire onto the bike. So I want to show that. And we have to, you know, when you do these videos, you have to realize there's a lot of new guys coming up. You know, I'm not saying Phoenix new, but I'm saying there are guys new and they, you know, don't know a lot of this. Even myself, when I bought the Suzuki, I'm on this YouTube looking at videos how to do stuff. That's why I put the tappets on, because I could not find one where somebody took it from the beginning to the end for the tappets. A lot of stuff like that I didn't know. You know, I hadn't had one of these newer bikes where, like the gas tank, you just unplug it and it, you know, you don't have to have every ounce of gas out of it. I do recommend when you take it off, take the gas out. It's easier to handle. And just stuff like that, you know. And they would show about the tappets, and a guy would show setting them and talking about it and this and that. Well, they didn't show it. What do I take off? What all do I got to go through? I want to see this before I do it, you know. So that's why I put mine up and left them. So now let's go from the charging over to the bike. And this bike had this cable on. Well, when I seen it, I took the seats off to check to make sure it was routed right, everything like that, and it was done perfect. A buddy of mine owned this before he passed away, and he put it on, and he did it right. So I knew it was okay. I double checked it, but I'll show you how mine's wired in. So you don't, he was talking, Phoenix was talking about putting it under the cover, so you just take the one cover off. Well, you don't even have to do that. This one I can plug in just a second. So I'm going to show that. I'm going to go over on the left-hand side of the bike. I have the seats off, and you can see right in here is the cord. That's the fuse, and this come with a charger probably. I got one with my charger where he already had it on, so there's no sense of taking mine and putting on. But the hot wire goes right here to the fuse. The ground goes right to the ground of the battery, so it's wired right to the battery. It goes over here, down under, and it comes out right in here, and that is the plug with the cap on for the charger. You just pull the cap off, and right there's your plug. There's and it's a one-way plug, so you can't plug it in wrong. And I can plug my charger in it. So I'll put the cap back on. I'm trying to do it with one hand. There we go. There. And it's hooked right on here where this wire is, right under the rear peg. It's right here, and it just hangs right here. It's waterproof, and I mean, I have been in some bad rain. I talked about the night I had it down there for the movie TV show, Downward Dog, and it was such a storm coming home, and that was the worst rain I've ever been in, water. This didn't hurt it at all, and this bike went through it good. So that's my charging, all about it. It's nice and simple, it's close to it, and he had it done. And there's a little box on here, I think he got it off eBay. It's wired in, it goes to the tail light. What it does is it has a little dial, and you can dial it in where you hit your brake, it flashes, and you can turn the dial up and down. If you turn it clear up, it'll flash the whole time you have the brake on. That's the way he had it. I don't like that, so I turned it way down to where it flashes about 4 or 5 times and then stays solid red. But that is nice. I mean, it really gets our attention. So now on to the wheel balancer. So you've got your Harbor Freight balancer, you put it together. Then what you want to do, the first thing is adjust these. When you put these in for these wheels, you want to adjust them so that they spin real free, like that. Plus, you're going to need some WD-40. I lay it down like this, put some in here, some in here, wait a little while, then turn it over, put it in here. So you're putting it on both sides, and spin them, spin them, spin them, and they'll get real freed up. That's what you want to do, the first thing. Then when you get this over at Harbor Freight too, they have the wheel weights, and they have them different weights. I got 1/4-inch ones, and you can see how they are. You can cut them apart, and then they have, you pull the back off and put them on the wheels to balance it. Now the rod that goes apart on the top, it sets in here where your wheel's going to be, just like it's on your axle. These are cone shaped, so you push them in tight on the wheel. That way it's on these. You know, you can't have it like loose because it's going up and down. Now this has to spin really free. The freer, the better and more accurate it's going to be. When I put these cones on, each one has a set screw. You can see it right there. Now what I do is I have an arrow there, here, here, and on this side. The reason is because on this side I want that Allen screw here, but on this side I want it 90 degrees over, or 180 on this side. You want it exactly opposite and on here, because this will make a difference. Every little bit you do to help balance this is going to make that tire run so much smoother. And it works. Believe me, I've been doing it for years. I made my own balancer and I was using, but when Harbor Freight had these, they were cheap enough. I had a coupon, so I got it for a 30, maybe 30, I don't know, $32, $34, something like that. It's well worth it. So a set screw here and one opposite, and then it goes like that, and it'll be, the tire will be in between. Make sure your table's level. Make sure this, put a level across here, make sure it's level. You want everything as best you can get it, because the more you take a little time and do it yourself, and the bike shops will balance them, but they're not going to take this kind of time. And that's where doing it yourself, you're going to improve the difference in the bike, and it does make a difference. I had taken them out just to see before I balanced it, then I put it back on the balancer. Big difference. It's amazing. Just a little extra time. And after I get done with mine, I put it away. When I get it back out, by the time I'm balancing another wheel, whether it's for me or my nephew or whatever, this has been setting a good while. I go and put WD-40 in here again, start working them, get them loosened up again. I want them really spinning free, so I get an accurate reading. So to start with our balancer, I'm going to get my wheel, and what I have is I have the wheel off the sidecar. It's off. Now this isn't pumped up. It doesn't have a valve in it. I don't know why I took the valve off, but I marked it. But I'm just going to use it for demonstration purpose. But if I was going to balance a wheel for the bike. Put the right pressure in it. When you're done, look through the ribs, make sure there's no little gravel sticking in it or nothing. Everything makes a difference. You may even want to clean your rim, you know, because everything that you do to get that balanced is going to be that much better. So, of course, I'm going to work with the rod that goes through it, but what I want to show is something important on this. I have the one cone on there tightened. I put it through here, and that's why it's a cone, so it matches all the wheels made. I'm going to put the other cone on the other side. Now, pushing it on and tighten it isn't good enough. Here's the important thing. I have this one locked down tight. So what I want to do is I want to put this like this before I lock this one down. Now, all the weight's down that way. When I hold it like that and push this one down, it is tight on that bearing in that wheel. So now I want to look underneath, and I can see my little set screws right there. So I'm going to turn it directly away from me. It's facing that way. Now the set screw on this side I have towards me, so I know they're opposite because it's different and it makes a difference. So I lock it down. Now when you first put this on, you might find, well, I got a lot more sticking out here than the other side. It's not right. It's not centered. You can adjust it back and forth, then tip it back up like this, loosen this, push it down, tighten it again. The weight on the wheel will take it down to that one. You're going to be good and tight. You don't want any looseness in this at all. So we'll say that's all tightened up, ready to go. Okay. So now I'm going to get the balancer back up here. And as I said, I have it all lubed. Everything's level. It's ready to go. Put the tire up there. The wheel. There. Now, I start by just turning it easy and see if it wants to backtrack. It's going back a little bit. See, it's going, and this takes time, and you want to do it in a closed area. You don't want no wind blowing on it. Now, for the sake of time and for just demonstrations, we'll say it stops right there. That, and you'll check it different times. If it keeps coming down, I have a little bit of this painter's tape that's not that sticky, and I'm going to put a piece right here on the bottom. Now I know that's my heavy side, so what I'll do is I'll go up here, put it right on top. On the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, on the bottom I want to put a weight, and JP Cycles has weights that go over the spoke and push down. They are terrific because they're right in this center line of this rim. If I was going to put one weight on, I would take it, say I only needed one of these weights that I had right here. If I had just one of these, would balance that perfect. If I went like this again and it stayed, wherever I move it, then finally I'll spin it, see where it stops. We'll say it spins for a good while. I'll put a little chalk mark at the bottom, spin it again. See, if it keeps going to that chalk mark on the bottom, you know that's heavy there, that it's not balanced right. But if the chalk mark ends up over here, up here, you know you got it. But say I had to add weight. We'll say this is a heavy spot. I put it right on top, go right to the bottom. I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to take a piece of that painter's tape. And let me get a pair of scissors. What I would do is take a piece of painter's tape, and you know how you roll it so it's sticky on both sides? Put that on there because I just want to see if I'm right, and I would stick it right on the rim. I can't stick it in here, it's too big. That would be perfect. So I stick it on the side here. Now I check it, and I might be a little off, have to shift it, move it. I might, one of my wheels on the Suzuki, I think I had to add like 3.5 of these weights to get it balanced right, but that's what it takes. If that's what it takes, that's what you got to put on it. Now, if I only needed this one, I'm done with it. I would take this, and I would take and cut it in half, and I put half on this side and half opposite on this side. That way you're balancing your tire this way and you're balancing it laterally, meaning this way. You have half the weight here and half over here. You don't want it all on one side. It makes a difference. And it adds up to where, man, it just smooths it out so much. It takes time, but it's well worth it. I mean, you know, what's an extra, maybe you spend an extra half hour balancing it. It's well worth it all the longer, I mean, all the oftener you really put tires on if you're doing it yourself. And another thing, always remember the tire. I don't know if it's on this one. There, that weight just fell off. But on a tire, you'll see a little dot. Usually it's red, a little circle. That goes right where the valve is. It's on the other side. It's right here. It's right there, the valve. So that's where that little circle, it's usually out here, I think, or in here. A little red, it's hard to see. You really got to look for it. A little red circle, that goes right with the valve. That's the way the tires are made, and they're pre-checked. They can only get them so close. Then you finish it up on the rim. And I have done that, and this works out so much better. Because like I said, putting a tire on the bike is half the job to me. I balance it. And my nephew's, I did his back tire. Well, of course, the new tire made a big difference, but the balancing of it. You know, you get up to 60, 65 miles an hour, you can tell a difference. It runs smooth. So that's it for the Balancer Harbor Freight. All of Harbor Freight stuff need a little bit of mod. And one other mod I forgot. Very important on these is right here when you get this. I said about lubing these real good. Well, if you run your finger over this ridge where that rod sets, you can feel a little line on each one. It's the manufacturer, the way they're made. So I take wet and dry sandpaper and I just rub it like this, turn it, rub it, and I get it all smooth. I want it real smooth, but you'll find some of them have that line right there, like it would catch. You don't want that. So go over every one of them like that with wet and dry sandpaper and just sand them off, blow them off, then put your lube on. And that thing, it'll do you great. But for the money and the time, it's worth every cent. And it's worth your time to get them balanced to where when you put that bike on the road, it's going to be the best it can be. And it makes a world of difference. These older bikes, like my nephew bought the older 2002 V-Star. When he first rode it, wasn't impressive, wasn't great. You know, I mean, he was happy to have a bike, but I could tell it wasn't. Just went over it and did things. And like that back wheel, we put a new tire on, balanced it. Now he's going to put a front one on, and I'm going to make sure it's balanced. And the work we put into the bike, changing the brake fluid and cleaning the brakes, they were good. But the fluid was tea-colored instead of being clear. Pumped it all out in the front and the back, and just stuff like that. That bike, it's amazing. It's so much nicer now. It's just, and he's getting to where it's getting comfortable. He still has some things he probably wants to put on. I know he needs some bags and that. And I've been telling him, you know, we go cruising and that. You need a windshield because that air blasting you. And I'm going to try to get him into doing some filming on his bike because it is neat to put it on YouTube and, you know, talk about stuff or do stuff on it. And that's what's great about YouTube. You're always learning something. I've learned stuff. And just these things from balancing other things, and especially radio control helicopters. That's where I learned so much about balancing because the blades on them have to be so balanced. The whole head of the helicopter has to be balanced. And if you have it all done and you take your time, it is a world of difference how smooth they fly and how smooth they hover. And it just takes time. And I balance mine. Been doing it for a good while. In fact, this summer I got to get my radio control helicopter out. I haven't flown for quite a while, but I want to get back onto it and fly it around here a little bit. So, Phoenix, I hope this answered your questions. If you have any other ones, email me, you know, or somebody wants to leave something in a comment. If I know about it, I'll tell you how I do it. If I don't, I'll just come out and say I don't know. That's like the Evans coolant. I'm still debating. I have it in my bike. I see so good and bad about it. I don't know. I might do a review on it later. I was thinking about, they say Evans coolant, you put it in, you're done. You can leave it in forever. It never goes bad or nothing. Well, I've been thinking about draining it out and filtering it as I do it to see if there's anything in it. When I put it in and dried the system out, like I said, there was one passage there had a little wee bit of rust there. I could easily scraped it off. I left it go. I wanted to see something. Put the Evans in there, and it's supposed to like no corrode and stuff like that. Be really good. I thought if I do drain that out, I'm going to take where the oil pump is, or water pump. Take the water pump cover off and look in there at that hole again and see what it looks like after having the Evans. But it shouldn't. I can't understand why there's rust in there, even with the regular antifreeze, because that's a sealed system. And one guy on there really told a good thing. He said the bottle at the bottom from your radiator, that's not an overflow. He said it's an expansion tank, and it makes sense. I never thought of it like that. When that system gets hot, the lid on your radiator gives way, and the extra water goes in, or whatever you have, antifreeze or Evans, goes into that bottle. When it cools, it sucks it back the other way. It always keeps your radiator clear up to the top. They don't want air in it. When I was young, when first starting with cars, I thought, well, you need a space there. No, they want that filled clear to the top. And nobody ever tells you that. Well, they don't want air in there. That's a sealed system. So I'm thinking about draining that out, put it up on the jack and, get it up in the air, the bike lift. Drain it out and just see what's going on with it. Then I'll have to decide if I'm gonna, I could put that Evans right back in, but for what it costs, I don't know. Maybe put new in, maybe go with the other one. I just don't know. I keep watching them and I just can't make up my mind. So I don't know. And one guy explains, well, yeah, it's good, but it ain't any better than antifreeze, but it costs twice as much or more. So it's like, I've told guys have asked me when I first had my first one on, then I took it off because I wasn't sure. I don't want to steer somebody wrong. And somebody asked me one day on a thing about the Evans, and I said, I don't know what to tell you. I said, you really got to research it and make up your own mind. And I gave them the link that the one guy showed about Evans, and I don't understand Evans. They say, oh, Jay Leno said, you can drip under your car, it won't hurt the animals. Yes, it will. Because one guy showed, he went right to Evans' site, and it shows what it's made out of, and it's 80 to 85% that glycanol or whatever it is, and that's what antifreeze is. So you don't want to be letting your pets in it. It's not as friendly as Jay Leno says. So you just got to make up your own mind on that. But I would like to do a video on it. If I do it, I will do a video and figure it out from there. So if anybody has any comments about that, you can leave it. Say, hey, check this guy's video out. But I looked at a lot of them and I still don't know. But you're putting on a new tire, do it yourself. I think Phoenix said to put 2 tires on. If he takes the wheels off and take them to the bike shop, they wanted $60. With $60, you can buy the Harbor Freight bike wheel changer. Now you're buying the changer, the bottom part is for a car tire. Then you need the top part for the motorcycle tire. So you're buying 2 things there, but I'll tell you what, you wouldn't change very many tires till you'd have that paid for. Then definitely get the balancer, take your time, do like I showed. Get that thing on there tight, spin it, take your time, make sure there's no air blowing through, don't have any fans on. And when you ride, you'll see the difference. It is great. So, thanks for watching. Hang in there, Phoenix.